We gotta mute somebody.
Yeah, let me do say,
All right. All right, we need to get our camera on. All right, thanks. All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the February 15th, 2023 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. In attendance, myself, Chairman David Gerstenhaber, Vice I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, everybody. Before I move to public comment, I just want to announce that we had two short executive sessions last evening and then just prior to this meeting to discuss some issues with our township solicitor. And now we move to public comment. Public comment may include any comments relating to tonight's agenda. Commenters must state your name, whether you are a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Do we have any public comment before we open the meeting? Okay, not hearing any, we'll move on.
I don't know if this is, oh, it seems like it's working. Okay, so I want to make a motion that the board approve the January 18th, 2023 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Jim. So is there any discussion?
I just wanted to note that it was Jennifer Houston, Huston, not Hudson, who did the minutes.
And we can fix that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Jennifer.
Any other discussions or, okay. Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. So the motion carries 5-0 and we'll make that change.
Okay. Okay. Dawn.
I would like to introduce Megan Huron of Intren so she can update the board and the public about their proposed utility project along South Guernsey Road.
So Mayor, I work for Intren.
Me were.
Okay. So my name is Megan Horian. I work for Intren. Right now I'm Senior Project Manager. We have been hired by PICO to do an infrastructure improvement program where we will be replacing poles along South Guernsey Road between Penrock Ridge Road. Penrock Bridge. Sorry, I've done that like 900 times. And Hess Mill Road. While we do the work on that road, there will be a section where we will have to take a lane closure where vehicles will be able to pass, but we will have traffic control at each end of the work zone. And then there is another section, I believe it's below Hillcrest Drive, where we will have to take a full road closure during that section while we work because there's not enough space for public vehicles to be able to pass safely. In that section, we will be able to lower our buckets and lift our jack stands so that emergency vehicles, buses, and mail traffic can. but personal.
So how long do you think the Hillcrest part will take?
It's going to go in sections. We have the project is slated to start March 6th. We think all total, the entire project from start to finish should not take more than 8 weeks.
And any idea how long? Because Hillcrest is where you have to close the whole road. I was just wondering if you had a sense.
We have to close in the sections where we're doing the work. So if they're working on one pole, we'll close Hillcrest, or not Hillcrest, we'll close South Guernsey Road in that section. So it will still be open below and above where we work. It's just that section that will be closed to through traffic. It's daily closure. It's not a.
It's not seamless closure. It's just for the day.
Maybe I misunderstood you. I thought you said that, I don't know if it's, that the way it was set up, that you wouldn't have to close the road. You just would have to have one lane of traffic except for Hillcrest.
Hillcrest and above.
Oh, okay.
It's all the work that we're doing is on South Guernsey Road.
Yeah.
Is this the first step of other roads, or is it just something that you determined was necessary?
This is the only part of the project that we have is the South Guernsey Road.
So there won't be any other projects in the township that you're aware of?
I cannot speak to that. That would be a PICO question. But this for us, this is the only piece of work that we have that's slated to continue. Any other questions?
I have a question. Yeah. I live on South Guernsey Road, been there for 44 years. 2017, we replaced all the poles along there to accommodate a change in transmission voltage from 5 kV to 34 kV, requiring poles to be 8 foot higher. Question is, why are we replacing the poles now?
So that will be a PICO question. I do know that Bahi is on the call. I'm not sure if he's able to unmute to provide more information.
Hey, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I apologize, if I can hear you. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is that 2017, all the poles were on South Guernsey Road were replaced because of the change in distribution voltage from 5 kV to 34 kV. And all requiring the poles to be increased by 8 foot, so they're all replaced at that time. My question is, why are you replacing them now?
So this project, I'm the right now is actually I'm the representation of reliability project for like the worst performing veg sections. So typically, the sections that Intren is actually was brought on board for is sectionalize those circuits to make the section more reliable, just to to prohibit the vegetation in the area, to increase the reliability to our PICO infrastructure. But however, this is like a new program that PICO is incorporating to make the entire PICO system more reliable, just in case.
So I guess the question is, what was deficient with the poles now, and what is new, what is different about the new poles that will make the poles more reliable?
Well, it's not really like a pole in a sense. It's more like the conductor, right? Because we're actually installing several spans of the Hendrix cable. So if in fact if a tree was to take down the actual a span of wire, instead of taking out the whole block, it would just be sectionalized circuits and like that for the outage duration.
Will these poles be taller or lower or the same size as the existing ones?
These poles will be it's based on for the equipment that's on there and stuff, in a sense, to meet our adequate clearances. So in some cases, we have transformers, reclosers, cat banks, in the area. So by, by engineer standards and stuff like that, typically like in a series, it would be like, like for like. So like if there's like a 45, foot pole, we're going to swap it out, with a 45, the foot pole, to meet the clearance.
Bahi, if I can ask a question in a little bit different way. From what we've heard so far tonight, the poles on South Guernsey seem to be the newest poles in our township. Why are they being replaced before maybe some other roads that have older infrastructure?
Well, I can't speak to like, the previous projects and stuff. I can only speak for like, the project that's actually being, like, work by the Intren team and stuff like that. But this section, that Intren is actually one of our poor sections, just, reliability wise, that we definitely want to target in the event of a major storm hits that area, we able to restore power, momentarily.
So why not just make the change on the poles that are already there? We're not understanding why the poles need to be replaced. We understand that you'll do other things, right, to increase reliability, but why change the poles if the poles, you're going to use the exact same poles again?
Well, because some of the poles is based off of also like age as well, and it's based off of like standards too, to make sure that the installed equipment, the Hendrix cable has like adequate clearance, pretty much to fit like the NESC code.
My final comment is that when that project was done, I think in 2017, the objective was to increase the reliability of electric service along South Guernsey Road, requiring the new poles, the raised elevation of wires, and I did extensive work eliminating vegetation, which creates the problems for the wire. So it just seems like the objective I heard tonight is the same as the one back in 2017. I don't need any more information. We gotta just end this right now. Yeah.
All right, so, but the impact to the community is going to be, if I made the note right, is you're going to have a full lane closure for about 8 weeks? No, or is the whole project 8 weeks?
The whole project is 8 weeks.
Okay, so how long for the full lane closure at the Hillcrest unit?
It's about 4 weeks worth of work where we're going to have to close that section for a 10-hour. It'll be approximately about a 10-hour shift for the day.
Okay.
And it's Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday, 10 hours.
And what we've already agreed to, I spoke with Jeff about, is that we're going to do a pole by pole update so that we'll be able to provide, this is the address, between this address and this address is where we'll be doing the work. And that's what will be specifically impacted by the road closure.
Okay. All right.
And the idea is to try and get that to me at least 2 days ahead of time,
Yes.
so I can post it.
No service and emergency vehicles have access even during the closure.
Yeah. So what we'll have to do is we'll drop our buckets, lift the jack stands, the vehicle will be able to go by, and then we'll just set back up.
Okay.
And all this work is March and April.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in communication with PennDOT right now just to make sure that they're good with us providing the route onto Chesterville Road. I'm waiting to hear back. It doesn't sound like we're going to need a permit for it, but I'm just waiting to hear back from them about being able to set
And
up
I
a
think
detour that way.
School bus traffic down that road is we need to reach out to the.
We already have our bus routes.
Okay.
Everything's been planned out, and the guys will be prepared that they'll be able to set the buckets up the right way so that the buses can get through.
Great.
And once we have some solid dates, I'll be in contact with emergency services directly, the state police and the fire companies and Medic 94.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously if something happens, we're definitely just going to get out of the way as best we can.
Great. Thank you. So do we have any other questions?
Well, like, I would like to just make a quick introduction. So, like, for all the individuals for the Franklin Township, I've actually asked Brittany Severino to join the call. She's actually our PICO government affairs representative. So typically, she would handle, all the customer complaints, the township concerns, and able to escalate, those issues, to the proper key stakeholders, within the PICO property. Brittany?
Yeah, hi, everyone. I apologize I couldn't be there in person. I just actually started this role last week. I don't know if you had worked with Scott Newman previously as the External Affairs Manager for Chester County. He retired, and I am just taking over his role. I've been with PICO for 15 years, previously in large accounts, but obviously new to this role. Baheen and I have worked on projects in the past, so he had reached out to me a couple of days ago and asked me to join this call. So I think I did send an introductory email. I'll have to look and see who it was for Franklin Township.
I got it. I got it.
Okay, perfect. So you have my contact information. I would say if any questions or concerns or comments come up during the course of this project, certainly feel free to reach out to me. Hopefully, in the next couple of months or so, I'll actually be able to come out and meet you folks in person, but I wanted to jump on the call just to make sure that you're aware that I do know that this project is forthcoming. It looks like you're in good hands there with Megan, but if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, certainly don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. And thank you for the PICO support.
Okay, thank you, Brittany. So does Intren or PICO have any questions or comments for the board? Okay.
I think I was more concerned if you had questions for
Okay.
us.
Just want to open it up. All right.
Can I ask you a quick question to the people from PICO?
Sure.
Thanks, Brittany. Are there other projects? Are you looking, if I'm saying this because we probably lose power a few times a year, especially during the winter, falling branches, et cetera. So is this a focus on some of the other roads, or is this a one-off Guernsey Road once every 6-year project on Guernsey? Or are you going to look at other roads as well? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know offhand, to be totally transparent with you, but I can certainly take a look at Franklin Township. There is projects for worst performing vegetation sections, which is what Bahid and Megan are heading up on their end. So there's certain circuits of the section that have identified as having reliability issues, that this one falls into this category. But there is other programs within PICO. One of them is called LTIP. It's long-term improvement projects, where if we do find other issues that don't have to do with vegetation, we do upgrades on those systems as well. And then, of course, we do our 4-year tree trimming on all of our circuits. So let me take a look at your township for Franklin Township. And if you the person there who has my contact information, if they want to share it with the gentleman there, you can certainly reach out to me directly, and I can look to see if we have any projects in Franklin Township for you guys.
Thank you.
And I think one thing that would be helpful for us to understand kind of the logic behind how these roads or these lines get chosen is if you can come to a meeting and kind of say, hey, here's your township, and this is why South Guernsey is an issue, and say, North Creek Road isn't an issue. And I don't know if that's something in your wheelhouse, but it might help us when we ask our questions like tonight, why the focus on South Guernsey versus the other roads in the township, which are very similar in makeup to that road.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I can certainly get with our reliability folks to see what the circuits are in that area, because I'm not too familiar with them offhand. Yeah. And then I know there's reports that we run based off of your circuit from our PICO substation that help identify circuits that need our attention because of poor reliability. So yeah, absolutely. I could definitely do that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Thanks. And Brittany, I'd like to talk to you over the next week about some poles on Old Schoolhouse Road, but we can save that for next week.
Sure. That just need replacement? Just old poles or leaning?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yep.
Brittany, it
Thank you,
would also
everyone.
help us if you can explain the programs that Pico does at the time you come in, like the different
Sure.
programs that you just started to mention tonight. That'd be great.
Awesome.
Absolutely, will do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, any other questions or comments for Pico or Intrend?
No, thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Appreciate you coming out.
Yes, happy to be here.
All right, thank you. Okay, Stefan. Turn your mic on.
Hi, the treasurer's report. This is a comprehensive monthly report of the township financials for the month of January 2023 and year-to-date. January 2023 report includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $123,072.51. The park and recreation fund with disbursements of $3,906.40. The open space fund with disbursements of $109,859.19. Cap reserve fund with disbursements of $0. Emergency services fund with disbursements of $1,201.81. Fire hydrant disbursements $0, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $1,784,349.31. I make a motion that the board approve the January 2023 treasurer's report as presented by Melissa Ortega. Donna, thank you. Second by Donna. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Okay, motion carries 5-0.
All right, I'll handle the zoning officer's report. This report was compiled by the zoning officer and includes the number of permits processed for the month of January. In the month of January 2023, two permits were issued for $404.50 in building fees, $0 in miscellaneous fees, and $0 in recreation, open space, and $0 in impact fees were collected, and 8 inspections were performed. All right, Jim.
Okay. Jim German is here to present the Franklin Sportsman's Association update for the month.
Okay, this is actually for the month of January, February, and actually our final report for this hunting season. Kind of slow January, they closed out, all the seasons are officially closed now.
Mhm.
They closed the January 28th. Parcels, no issues, concerns there. We will be going around primarily around the edge of Franklin, removing the edge signs the next couple days. I mean, the weather's been amazing for it. We just gotta get out there and get it taken care of. There's no other issues, concerns with any of the parcels that I've heard through any other leads or throughout the club. For the season, the club harvested 12 deer, 2 bucks and 10 doe. That's the same as what we harvested last year. From a community service standpoint, service projects that were assisted and completed during the month, the members of the club participated in the trail bridge build over at Banishire, grill cleanups and repainting in Crossing Park. And then as of today, which is an ongoing report, there were some trees that needed to be cut down the lower end of crossing along the trail leading back to the bridge over to the winery side, and that was cut up and cleaned down. So we had no worries about widow makers down in there falling on the trail or any of the locals if that were to drop suddenly. For the year from July till now, 109 service hours, not counting whatever time was spent today. Once again, the FSA would just like to thank the township for allowing us this opportunity to participate and do some hunting on the local properties.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. And Dawn, there is a couple people who have already volunteered to build the bird boxes. So, I mean, the book boxes, I should say, not bird boxes.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That has been out there, I just deleted it.
You want to stay on Dawn's good side.
Yeah, I don't know what type of response Bob received yet,
Excellent.
but
Yeah.
it has been advertised to the board members.
Yeah.
So.
So
A
it's a
couple
good,
people have responded already, so.
so it's a good segue, Don.
Say that's a wonderful segue because since the FSA was so kind to help us last year and we got the healing garden in and we got all that stuff done last year at the healing garden, we want to use the healing garden. So we came up with some ideas and we have talked last fall. I don't know whether you guys remember when we talked to the library, when we gave them their contribution. We said, would you help us do a reading program? I've been in contact with the ladies and they are going to help us with a reading program over in the library, over in the garden. So there are 2 little free libraries already in Franklin Township. One is over by the charter school and it matches the blue house that used to be the dentist office there. And the other one, Jeff, is Hess Mill Road, but those are private. So we thought we would build one. Well, FSA could help us build one for the garden and put garden books in it. And then Jeff said, we'd love to have one over here. And there's a rain garden over here and have one over here. And then one maybe down further in Crossan Park. So we thought of starting with 3. We've had very generous offers from Bob Magnus, and he's been super helpful with me. He's already picked out 2, and we're talking about doing different types so we can do a map of them in the township. And the ladies from the library said they've been contacted by other parks, local, and we could do reading programs from one park to another park to another park with different programs to bring parents from one park to the next park to the next park. So it seems like a fabulous project and we're very excited about it. And you should see the first one. We're in the throes of getting the money together and figuring out how much it's going to cost us. But with all our volunteer hours, you don't have to help. It's all right. We got plenty, but we should be doing great. So we're very excited about it.
Yeah,
Nice
the-
spring project.
You know, the FSA will be out there once the weather breaks to do some work on the healing. garden.
That's
So-
wonderful. Well, we've been thrilled with it.
Could you, I've seen the emails. Can you describe what this is? Because I really,
It does look kind of like a birdhouse, but it's big. It's a box and it sits on a post and it's like a cabinet. It opens up and you put books in it and you put free books and it's a free library. So the one right up by the charter school, anybody can go up, get a kid's book or a book out, read the book, put it back, put another book in, put another book, and they're really the rage right now. It's been a really neat program. If you become a member of the free library group, they will put them on your map, but the library is going to advertise this stuff for us. We can advertise it for us. So it should be a really popular program. And like I said, we already have 2 in the township, then we'd have 5, and you can make a map of where they all are. And it just is a really exciting program. So thank you in advance.
Right, so I just want to turn it over to the PRO, the Park Recreation and Open Space Report. I don't know if someone's here from the PRO. Oh, there she is. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll turn it over to you.
That would be me. I want to preface this with the fact that I am the 2nd newest member on the PRO board. So that tells you how many people were not available this evening to participate. So I hope you'll bear with me. You should have all gotten the 3-page summary of the PRO board's current agenda and issues. Jen Albany kindly prepared that. There are only a few additions to it, things that we didn't have prior to it being printed. And I'm going to just highlight a few things. I'm not going to read the whole agenda to you, but there are a couple of things that we'll be addressing and requesting from the Board of Supervisors. The first is the Bancher Preserve. Mr. Overton will present a more comprehensive summary of everything that's gone on and the accomplishments. And I do want to just say as an aside that he has worked his tail off on that, as well as a number of volunteers who have helped out, and we are so grateful to them. Right now, the issues we have there are that signage is very poorly located. No one can see it. When you drive by, you don't really know what's there. And so we'd like to prepare new signage if possible. The estimates that we've gotten right now, Mr. Overton provided to us. If we were to do a sign similar to the Goodwin sign, which I think is mainly wood, would be $3,000. If we did a metal version of it, it would be $1,500. But we really want to locate it along the road so that people know the preserve is there. They know who's responsible for it, and that it's public. The second issue there is parking. People come in and park right at the bridge entrance instead of at more appropriate places for parking. Signs that say, appropriate places to park. And as it says, we want to have a map there for all the trails that lead from there and where to go. And then moving along, I think one of the easier requests is that at Crossin, we would really like to have some porta potties. My term, and it's probably not the right one, but especially in winter months, because the main bathrooms there are shut down in the winter because of pipes freezing and those kinds of things. But it's, people want to spend time there in the winter hiking or, on the fields or playing in the playground. There are no bathroom facilities or places for that. So the maximum, we think it would be $120 a month. And again, this wouldn't be 12 months out of the year. It would just be during the months that the bathrooms are shut down. What else? So Mr. The next issue on our agenda that we are contemplating putting some real time and effort into is working on an informational brochure regarding open space. Obviously, Pro Board, we do a lot with Parks and Rec, but open space is part of our umbrella as well. And we want to promote as much open space as possible in the township as we can. So we were thinking about creating a brochure, something informational to assist homeowners in the township who have properties that would benefit the township by not being subdivided or sold off in some kind of way, and helping them go through the process of preserving that land, whether it's with one of the preservation organizations. And so we kind of would like your feedback on your feelings about it, whether you would be supporting or not, and then specifically any language or parameters that are necessary or should be left out.
So I think from our perspective, and I'll defer to the board's opinion, but we what we would probably need is something more advanced to work from. So what you're actually proposing and what you're actually asking for. There's a pretty wide swath of options on what I think you might be proposing. So I think my suggestion, and I'll let the board ask their questions, but is to have maybe a formal proposal to the board about, hey, here's what we're thinking about doing, here's our proposed language, and here's our objective. And then we can kind of have something more concrete to work from. But I don't think, I think we've talked about our open space philosophy in general, and maybe not with Stefan. Stefan's new, but we can talk about that because we have a long-term. Okay, and we have a long-term goal within the board, but I think that would be my suggestion. I don't know if anyone has any specific questions for the pro tonight.
Yeah, just to address a couple of things that you mentioned. The sign looks great. We should talk about that further too. I don't know if we have to approve it. I know and the porta potties as well, but I don't know if are you proposing that would come out of the pro budget or somewhere else?
Yeah.
That I have to defer to.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So I think this is a good starting point for some discussions for next month. But one of the questions that we had about the porta potties is it's not really about the cost or the convenience, because for the people who use porta johns, they're appreciative that they're there and they're pretty low cost. The problem is what happens to those porta johns with drug use, with vandalism. So I think we talked to the folks over at Nickel Park, and they installed porta johns. And I think they're there year round.
I don't know if they're still there or not, but I know there's an issue.
Yeah, and they consistently had issues with all of those things, with vandalism, people tipping them over, and I guess I can sum it up as they bring along some security considerations. So it's not just $120 a month. There's a lot of other things that we want to think about before we introduce that. And I think I'm not saying no, it's just here's my inclination is always to see, okay, where's the problem? And that's one of them. And I think we have right now, we're kind of struggling with some issues at Crossin anyway, some vandalism with the park, so with the tables. So just like something to think about, if we can think about how we might be able to address that. Maybe there are some solutions, but yeah.
Yeah, we did talk about maybe a space heater in the bathrooms that are there so that we can use the water. I don't even know if that's feasible. We'd have to get somebody did you check onto that, Jeff?
I'm going to work with Ryan St. John. He hasn't called me back yet. He's our plumber and electrician. He does great work. So I wanted to get his ideas of a low cost, effective way to do it.
Yeah. So Heather, just one of the conversations that we've had. So Jeff and I talked a little bit about this, and Donna as well. And one of the options is, well, if the issue is we don't heat the bathroom year round, is there a way that we can just maintain the temperature in that bathroom above freezing year round? So it's not a sauna or it's just above freezing. So we can actually utilize that bathroom year round. Rather than have a safe way as well. But we have to do that in a safe way. So we have to somehow heat it. And so we're looking into some options that might be a little bit more secure and resistant to some of the vandalism that invites with the porta johns.
Yeah. When does the park, when does the bathroom open and when does it close?
Great questions. All depends on the weather. And I try and coordinate that with Ryan St. John. And then for the past 5 or 6 years, I go through the procedure because of DEP. I need to shock the wells. Yeah. So as soon as possible, we do it. It could be the beginning of April. It could be mid-April. I don't know.
Because my first reaction, maybe it's completely unfair, is I wasn't a big fan. It's not the cost. It's the vandalism, it's the aesthetics, it's a lot of different reasons, the issues surrounding a porta potty. And for the one or two people that play pickleball in January, I mean.
To be fair, it's not one or two. I mean, it is like it's
Picking up.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
It's becoming a cult.
It's a crew and you don't mess with them.
Okay.
Right.
Aside from doing work for the township, I have never seen the inside of that bathroom, even though I played tennis a couple, three or four times a year. Maybe younger, I don't know.
Heather, you also mentioned signs for parking. I didn't get a cost for that. You gave a cost.
We don't have that yet, so I apologize, but by the March meeting, we'll look into signage. I can't imagine that it would be that substantial, but just, things to indicate places to park and not to park.
Yeah, I think I mean, I'll just speak for myself. I think I'll be very supportive of that. It's just to get a price so that we can allocate the money for it.
Obviously.
And that's something I'll work with our sign company on. There are standards of ones they can just pull off the shelf.
Heather, I don't want to jump the gun since you didn't get to it, but I just want to question the zip line part, maybe. And I question that a little bit just because, oh God, what was that place? There's a place in Bear, Delaware. It's like Gorilla something. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, yes. Go Ape.
Go Ape.
Yeah. Yes, somebody died there. And I just want, I'm just you to think about the legal and safety and all that.
Yeah, this is a kids, like this is one that's low to the ground.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah, we're not.
It's
We're
not
not
like
talking.
treated tree.
Yeah, this is like the one the kids can hang on and like move like 10 feet.
They will drop to their
6 inches.
Just
They'll drop 6 inches.
Just within that
Yeah.
kids area, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
I mean,
like
zip line is probably not even a good phrase for it, but
And
Nice from the winery all the way down.
There's an idea.
but it would be substantial enough that an adult could do it as well. That's all. But no, we're not looking at going from 50 feet up in the trees down to the ground.
And as we would proceed before bringing it to the board, I'll certainly talk with our insurance carrier
Yes.
beforehand.
Yeah, the challenge right now is finding where to put it in the park because there's certain, the ground has to have a certain slope and you can't have anything like a septic tank can't be under it. So Jeff and I had some initial discussions with a provider and it was hard to find that right place without having to do major excavations. The idea came back again at the Pro because there is a lot of interest from the public because it's fun. So we're going to continue to look into that and see if we can do something. But believe me, safety's important. Yeah.
Plus, Don, I'm sure there's small ones that go all the way up to Go Ape, right? So we'd like to see what was proposed. We'd like to see what you're proposing. Like a picture of it always shows a lot too.
It's designed for a children's playground. It's not, for.
And then one more thing, Heather, is I know you mentioned the open space initiative and you mentioned having brochures and talking about like preserving their lands, but I know we don't have to deliberate on this tonight, but there's been some conversations about easements on people's properties too. So that's going to be a larger conversation, I think, when it comes up, that portion. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, easements for the township purposes.
Easements on people's properties for walkways and bike paths and things like that.
Right. And
not just preserving your whole property after, not just preserving the whole property, but just a little portion of it so people could walk through to the next part, So.
I understand. And, and that's something that the different preservation organizations, will propose and deal with. And then the township, obviously has their input. And I know because Nancy and Jim next door to me have one of those easements that will eventually kick in on their preserved property. So I'm familiar with the concept, but again, that it's going to be kind of a case by case basis, depending on who's, the property itself, the location and what preservation organization is involved. So,
And
but yes, it is a big consideration.
I think, and I talked to Paul briefly a couple of days ago, and, one of the conversation, I think that as you draft this brochure, one of the things that we want to make explicit is it's the township isn't saying, hey, if you come to us with property, we're going to buy it from you, right? It's really the focus is going to be, here's some resources you can explore if you are interested. Because I guess one of the concerns, and I think maybe you might have expressed it, is we don't want to give the impression that it's something that is
That we're financially involved.
Thank you. Like we're going to say that the township is looking to buy, and that's not really where we're at right now.
Correct. And we understand that. And Donna has brought that up a couple times since she normally participates in our meetings. So we're very aware of that, and we will make sure that, obviously you guys would have final approval on anything that goes out, but we will make sure that that's made very clear.
It's just my feedback. So as you draft your document.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other questions for Heather? No. Oh, great job, Heather.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later.
And what do we have next? Planning Commission.
Again.
Man, Stefan, you're getting too many.
Okay. Planning Commission report, no February meeting, no proposed motions.
Okay. And Jim.
All right, the Historic Commission report. And
So there's nobody to report back? Okay, I just wanted to comment, the planning commission created an ad hoc group that is looking at pedestrian walkways, and we had Jeff and I had our first meeting. And Stefan too, that's right. And it was actually very interesting. It was very beginning part of it, but trying to look at ways to get people access to the trails, right? So I think that's kind of what we're looking at right now, to see what can we do to certain roads or whatever ways that are in areas that are close to trails. Is there a way to provide better way for people to have access to? So we're in the early days, but we did start to meet.
Yeah, we did identify some low hanging fruit for roads that could be good, and so early stage, like Donna said, it's early stages. But it's looks like could be some pretty good opportunities. A little bit more inclined towards the roads within to get to the parks or connecting parks together, as opposed to bike lanes on our roads. But that's
896,
yeah. But
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
all right, thank you. So the Historic Commission did not have a February meeting either. There's no proposed motions. I don't know if there's anybody. I don't think there's anybody.
No one here this evening,
Right.
and Paul apologizes for not being present. So
Okay.
there's nothing to report anyway.
Okay. All right. That's back to Donna.
All right, so now to the highlight of the evening is the solicitor's report. So let me turn it over to you, Guy.
Well, we don't have to expect that much. Thank you, Donna. So we have 4 items on the solicitor's report. What I would like to do, if it's okay with you, Donna, and the chair, is I sort of would like to go in reverse order. The Mount Olivet Road Trail update. Everyone will recall that the township is interested in acquiring the rights to that bridge there. And in anticipation of that, there has been an ordinance passed to turn at least Franklin Road, a portion of it, to a pedestrian and bike path. The next step would be to acquire that bridge from the county. I've been in contact with the county solicitor, Colleen Friends, who speaks with Jan Bowers at the county. They are completely on board with that disposition and acquisition by the township. I've negotiated with Ms. Friends a transfer agreement for $1 of that bridge. The benefit to the township is that this bridge has recently gone through complete renovation and should provide a nice bike and pedestrian trail for your residents. What I would like to do is to ask Mr. Eastburn to put approval of that agreement on next month's agenda. I will circulate the agreement to the board because I have not circulated it to you yet. And I think it's important you put your eyes on it. It's not complicated. It's 4 pages. And again, the consideration is $1. So
Renegotiation.
yes.
Yeah, well, we still have to discuss where the dollar's coming from.
I'm gonna take you when I buy my next car.
So that's Mount Olivet Road. Does anyone have any questions on that? I'm happy to entertain questions.
So I just really want to make a comment because I think one of the things that will raise eyebrows is why would the township take ownership of a bridge? Are we out of our minds? And so one of the questions to answer that question, and the reason where this was part of the solicitor update, is we spent a lot of time looking at the long-term feasibility of that bridge and any liabilities that may incur with the township from ownership of that bridge. This bridge is designed for daily vehicular traffic. This was Mount Olivet Road was a state road with a bridge and county road. Is that
Township Road, County Bridge.
That's right. Township Road, County Bridge. Thank you. And so it was designed for daily vehicular traffic. And what we've done, it was recently refurbished and is being converted to a footbridge. So we had some engineers look at it, and from the load that we're going to put on that bridge, nothing lasts forever, but it's going to be indefinitely stable, provided that we're not running traffic over it. So which is, again, the reason I bring this up is this is why we felt okay about taking control of this bridge, because it's such a low load for what it's designed. It's over-engineered for its purpose. So that's all, my only comment.
Okay, thank you. My Act 167 update, you'll recall that in our last meeting, I represented that I would forward this to the Daily Local News Legal Department. I've done that. I will say that I've had some conversations with the township's new engineer with respect to Act 167. They had some comments, which I welcomed, and Mr. Eastburn and I welcomed those comments, but I didn't feel that going back to the drawing board on those comments should delay submission, at least for advertisement. It's been knocking around the township for a while. I think it's a good product. I think the engineers that put it together and assisted the board in assembling the concepts did a good job. And so that's you should be seeing that. It's fairly lengthy, but you should be seeing that shortly. And then we could put that on the agenda for next week as well. So now maybe the more lengthy conversation, and I will start it off, and then I will turn it over to Andrew of Arrow Consulting. We have been working on a program with PennDOT to satisfy our pollution reduction obligations under MS4. We have had very productive conversations with PennDOT. It's a complicated project designed to allow this township to receive credits for its pollution reduction through participation and funding in projects that are outside of our township in conjunction with a larger project that PennDOT is spearheading. I had a good conversation with Andrew and Amanda Fetterman with Arrow, a couple of them, and certain cracks appeared started to appear in the procedures that the township was using with respect to this particular relationship with PennDOT, what we needed to do, what PennDOT needed to do, what was the expectations of DEP and PennDOT of the township, who has what plan approval, and if there isn't, when do they expect it? What is the most recent review of the DEP review letter, comments of the DEP comment letter with respect to the plan, the PRP. And after having, I would say, probably 2 or 3 hours of conversation with Arrow, I felt it was a good idea to have Arrow come in and address certain points for the board. I know Arrow, a lot of respect for Arrow. Andrew and Amanda are all over it. And certain things sometimes are lost in the seams of transfers of projects. So I want to introduce Andrew of Arrow Consulting as to his review of the former engineer's file, where he thinks MS4 stands and the PennDOT cooperation or contribution agreement stands from an engineering standpoint so that we can take the next step. We've drafted the legal documents, they exist. The question now is there a foundation underneath that document which will actually secure the credits necessary for this township within the Chesapeake watershed? And I'd like to turn it over to Andrew for questions and perhaps a 2 or 3 minute overview.
Yeah, so before we start, so Andrew, when you do your discussion, could you just start with our plan? Like start with the plan that we recently, well, I don't know what recently, that we previously submitted to DEP and the fact that that's been rejected, right? If you could just start from that point and then maybe work into the PennDOT and what that opportunity is and some of the pros and cons of it as you see it.
Sure, no problem. Thank you everyone for having me tonight. Again, my name is Andrew Talea. I work for Arrow Consulting, and recently I have begun to work with Mr. Donatelli and Mr. Eastburn, Manager Eastburn, in terms of getting everyone on the same page about, from the documents that we obtained from LTL and from documents that the township had internally, where the township's at in terms of MS4 compliance. And so there's a lot of moving parts to that. There's a lot of different reports and programs that go into that. So I'll start with the high points. So for starters, the township prior to 2018 had an MS4 permit. And so when the new 5-year permit cycle came about for all MS4 permit holders in the state of Pennsylvania, all MS4 permit holders were required to submit a notice of intent for the next permit, as well as submit the required pollution reduction and/or TMDL plans as part of your new cycle NOI submission. And so depending on what municipality you are in, each municipality has a different requirement in terms of what kinds of reports and plans you need to submit to DEP. It has to do with the impaired waterways across the state of Pennsylvania. And so, for example, Franklin Township has 2 different requirements. So, and just for those that may not know, if you have an MS4 permit in the state of Pennsylvania, which Franklin Township does, you have to, for lack of a better description, you have to submit an annual report to demonstrate compliance with a number of items. It's probably 20 to 30 different things like public education, public involvement, outfall inspections, staff training. Those are things that everyone has to do as an MS4 permit holder, no matter what. But there are 2 reports that the township has to submit on top of that, and that is the pollution reduction plan, and the other is the total maximum daily loading, or TMDL plan. And so the difference between the 2 plans is that they are slightly different methodologies, and but the overarching goal for both of those plans is for municipalities to assess the current land uses and impervious cover and existing stormwater infrastructure in your municipal jurisdiction, and also calculate how much stormwater you are treating with stormwater BMPs, such as stormwater basins, stormwater swales. And then basically what happens is, once you've figured out how much land you have, how much stormwater infrastructure you have, you get a baseline number of how much pollution in terms of sediment and nitrates and phosphorus your municipality is contributing into local waterways. And so what those plans require is, once you have that number, each permit holder has to at minimum demonstrate that they are reducing those pollutants, sediment, nitrates, and phosphorus by 10% at the end of a 5-year permit cycle. And how you reduce those pollutants into waterways is by implementing new stormwater BMPs, best management practices like new stormwater basins, upgraded stormwater basins. You can do alternative projects like stream restoration. There's a number of ways to meet those goals. But the township has a requirement as of 2018, or had a requirement as of 2018, to submit both of those plans to DEP for approval, which would demonstrate how Franklin Township intends to meet that pollution reduction requirement by the end of the 5-year permit cycle. So in a perfect world, municipalities would draft and submit those plans to DEP at the start of the 5-year cycle, which Franklin Township did. But it seemed, well, Franklin Township submitted a TMDL plan, and actually the township had applied for a waiver for their pollution reduction plan. And so the township actually received an initial review letter for the TMDL plan back in, I think it was 2018. And then the township resubmitted that TMDL plan around 2020, but basically held on to the waiver and did not submit a pollution reduction plan. So TMDL plan was submitted, pollution reduction plan was not submitted because the township submitted a waiver for that. And so basically what happened was, for 2 years, there was really no word from DEP on that. And I did speak with the former MS4 consultant, LTL, and they did provide me documentation showing that LTL at least was soliciting updates from DEP on somewhat of an annual basis, if not more frequent. And there were a number of staff members at DEP that started to review the plan, and then like one person retired. And frankly, the review got lost in the shuffle, and DEP never picked it up and responded in a timely manner, it seems like. And that's not uncommon. I mean, I work with a lot of municipalities where, you know, whether it's someone from the municipal side or someone from DEP side leaves, and the review gets frankly lost in the shuffle. And I would say of all the offices, we probably have experienced that most from the Southeast office, which Franklin Township reports to. You know, we have submitted PRP revisions to DEP. We actually just submitted one last fall, and we got a response and acceptance within 2 months. So it seems like DEP Southeast is, unfortunately, has not been able to respond to annual reports or TMDL submissions in a timely fashion. And so up until fall or summer of 2022, there was really no word from DEP on the status of the submitted plan. And then looking at emails, it seems like sometime around July of 2022 or August, it was reassigned to an individual DEP. And that person actually provided some comments and feedback to LTL specific to the TMDL plan. And but on the PRP plan, the summary was that the PRP waiver has been denied. So the township is going to need to submit a PRP plan to DEP, and there's no way around that. The TMDL plan that was submitted, it does appear that there is a correspondence showing that DEP provided comments in the form of email to LTL. And there was correspondence up until about the end of December or early January. And the last email that I have is from DEP answering questions that LTL had provided. So in terms of whose court is the ball in at this point, DEP has provided comments in terms of the TMDL plan submission to the township as of 12/1/22, which is December 1st of 22.
So Andrew, based on your assessment of that back and forth, the comments from DEP, is the TMDL plan salvageable? Is it something that we could pursue if we chose to? I'm not saying we will, chose to pursue it. Is it I don't know what the right word, viable, something that can be brought home to an approval? Is that in your opinion?
So I think it frankly is going to need to be redone in a lot of ways. You know, one, it's pretty common between engineering firms that not everyone typically does things the same way. And there are a number of things that we pointed out that we would like to do with the TMDL plan And without going through every single comment specific to the TMDL plan, I think some of the biggest highlights are that specific to the TMDL plan, it doesn't look like in terms of how the township is calculating existing treatment for stormwater BMPs is compliant with what DEP expects. And so, and there's a number of comments that DEP has responded to between August and December. So from my point of view, there are a lot of calculations that need to be redone. And I can't, without doing those, I can't speak to whether it's going to benefit or hurt the existing loading pollution reductions. And on top of that too, some of the projects that the township had put into the TMDL plan, in terms of the credit that the township was trying to obtain for these projects, DEP wasn't in favor of how the township was calculating those methodologies. And one thing to also point out with the TMDL plan, there are a lot of stormwater BMPs that are listed in the TMDL plan that from what I can see, it looks like the township is proposing to retrofit to get credit. And just based upon our initial review, it looks like we propose to retrofit up to 20 stormwater basins. Retrofit of 25 existing detention basins to dry extended detention basins, as well as providing some credit for stream restoration and riparian buffers. But I think the best approach would be, confirming that if some of those, if not a majority, are on private property, has the property owner been contacted? Are they aware that we're proposing to retrofit those BMPs? And I don't know the background to every single project that's in there, but the summary is, if you have stormwater infrastructure like a basin on your property, in terms of the township, you can do whatever you want with it. You don't have to work with any private property owner. If most of these, if not all, are on private property, then the township is going to need to get the property owners on board to even retrofit those basins.
So I'm confused now. We have been doing stormwater remediation forever. We've been putting in riparian buffers. We've been doing stream restorations, all under the guidance of our previous MS4 experts. And now maybe I'm hearing this wrong, but now I'm hearing like, well, the DEP doesn't like that. What we've been doing doesn't count. We need to take another, do we need to start over? Do we need to, I'm not sure how there's so many questions about what we've done in the past.
Right.
And how now now you're saying like the DEP is not in favor of the plan that we've been putting in place. So that previous work is not applicable towards our stormwater plan or our MS4 plan.
So,
is that what I'm hearing?
So in terms of the projects that have already been implemented, really, you don't currently even have an approved plan based upon, you've put those projects into a plan saying we anticipate that to get this much credit. From what I can see, DEP has given you comments saying we don't agree with your calculations on these proposed projects. So, and if the plan's not approved, there is a risk of you doing, there is a risk of doing these projects thinking, oh, we'll get X amount of credit for these projects, but without an approved plan, you really can't say that with 100% certainty that you will achieve all those credits that you put in the plan originally. And like, I know one thing that came up in my review letter is for stream restoration specifically, the prior engineer was trying to take credit for both sides of the stream restoration, counting that as, double credit essentially. Another issue was that the drainage area to the riparian buffers that were implemented were basically double, we were claiming double the amount of credit that DEP thought that they were actually achieving. So, so I guess the summary is the plan is not approved at this point, and any calculations that were put in there, DEP has not accepted them at this point.
It doesn't mean that they won't accept something, right? So it doesn't mean that they're not worth some some credits. So it's not like they said, no, we don't believe these things are BMPs. They're just saying, based on your calculations, we don't think it's worth, say, 30 points. We think it's worth 10 points. Like, it's possible it could be worth less, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I'm not saying that you can't take any credit for those projects, but the credit that was originally put into the TMDL plan as we will achieve X amount of credits based upon these proposed plans. One, those assumed credits have not been approved by DEP at this point, and I can't speak to them in terms of what we would actually get. We really have to pretty much redo the PRP in a lot of ways.
So where we're at is we need, I mean, we're at a level set mode, right? We have to take a look at the existing projects that we put in place over the last few years, get them to a point where the DEP will accept some or all of our proposal, and then provide a plan for future work. Is that the next step? Is that okay? Well, what else are we going to do?
Yeah. So I think at this point, what the township has to do is, one, address the comments that DEP provided as of December, and basically redo the calculations for the existing proposed projects to know, all right, this is how much credit we'll get based upon the comments that DEP's provided. And then what we can do is see, okay, what's outstanding in terms of credit. Because in terms of speaking with LTL, there's only been about 2 projects that have specifically been implemented to date to meet these TMDL requirements. And I think that's only going to get you a fraction or a small percentage of what you actually need to achieve. From the documents I've looked at, you have about 79,000 pounds of sediment to remove, by the end of your permit cycle. That's a pretty significant amount. I don't think, based upon the projects that are in place now, we're gonna entirely meet that. And I can't give you a number now to say here's where we are in terms of outstanding credits as of today, because I haven't addressed DEP's comments in your calculations to give you a number. So
based on what we have, what was LTL's estimate as to how much sediment we were going to take care of?
Well, between so I don't have those 2 projects in terms of their credits. I don't have them handy now. And I'm sorry, I don't have access to my server, but those are a small percentage, because you have about 25 basin retrofits included to meet your requirements. So my guess is a majority of those credits need to be achieved by larger stormwater projects. But in all reality, 25 stormwater basin retrofits is that is a bold strategy to meet. I mean, working with 25 different potential property owners is, a lot of effort. And again, I just haven't looked at each of those projects individually to say, all right, this is a good idea, this is a bad idea. Do we know if this property owner is even friendly to the township? So there's a lot of unknowns with the TMDL plan at this point, frankly, in my opinion.
Andrew, a couple years ago, we had a list. I was on the board 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, that we had a list of all the potential projects with a cost estimate. And a lot of that was going to be tree planting, because that was not as an expensive way to reduce our load here. Do you have what it would cost to do various things that might be approved? And do you have any idea what 79,000 tons or pounds of sediment might cost with various projects?
So it's really going to vary project to project. I mean, typically tree planting is inexpensive, but like, for example, I have an estimate. I do have notes here. So one tree planting effort that the township was claiming credit for, that looks like was already implemented, was the planting of 150 trees. So that's only getting you 99 credits out of 79,000. So tree planting is going to be inexpensive. If you're going to do anything structural, like retrofit a stormwater basin, depending on a number of factors, it's going to probably cost you anywhere between $100,000 and, anywhere up to, 250, 300 grand. And that's just a ballpark number off the top of my head. And that's also not including the long-term maintenance cost of actually maintaining that structure and the staff, power that's used to maintain the structures. Stream restoration can typically be the biggest bang for your buck. But stream restoration also, modern stream restoration typically changes the land use. If you have a stream with erosion issues, and your idea is to provide stream relocation and riparian buffers, you're looking at taking 35 feet of buffer on each side of the stream. So if that's on private property, that's really going to be something that has to be worked out with the property owner. If it's on township property, it's easier. But stream restoration is typically, will get you the biggest bang for your buck. But the long-term maintenance cost for stream restoration can typically be a little bit higher than doing a detention basin retrofit. And certainly doing a new stormwater basin compared to an existing stormwater basin retrofit is going to be more expensive. So the cost is going to range, but I don't think we're going to meet our TMDL requirement by, tree planting efforts. Again, I really haven't dug into the actual calculations at this point yet, but we are talking a significant investment, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to at minimum meet this requirement is my initial guess.
May I ask a couple of questions? I'm going to jump around a bit. Hi, Andrew. I'm concerned about the inevitable end of our permit cycle. I want to put a stake in the ground. When does the current permit cycle end? Do you have that information?
So for your approved permit that you had previously, because right now we don't have an approved permit. So right now we should be working under the general permit, which technically expires this year.
Okay. When you say this year, do you mean December 31st of this year?
I believe the end date for the 5th year of the cycle is June 30th of this year.
Okay. So the items that you've laid out for the board as items that you would like to dig into and understand and perhaps use to address the DEP's concern, how long does that process usually take?
So if we started working on the resubmission of the TMDL plan, and if we develop the pollution reduction plan now and to do it effectively, and figure out which properties we are going to do this at, if we hit the ground running and spent every day of the week focusing on this, we could probably get it completed within a month or two. But then we don't know how long the review process is going to take from DEP. But in best case scenario, say we take 2 months to develop the PRP and TMDL. We ensure that each project is feasible in terms of site and if it's private property. And say we submit after 2 months, and then it takes 2 months to review. That we're probably already 4 months at minimum away from actual approval to say, yes, we agree with your calculations. You can move forward with these projects. After that, it's going to obviously be, doing the survey and design work for any of these projects. And implementation after that could be anywhere from, 4 months to, 12, 13, 14 months for some of the larger structural projects.
Right, but we had no choice, right? So we're in a situation where DEP sat on it for 2 years. No fault of ours, but I know they don't look at it that way. And what can we do but, as you said, respond to their comments and figure out what our new plan is. And I hear you, it may take us beyond our current permit, but to do nothing is to do nothing. So we have to start to address this. And health authority, health authorities, this isn't health authority, but regulatory authorities, a lot of times, if they see the effort, if they see that you're going back and forth and at least making the attempt, what are they going to do to us? All we can do is interact with them and work with them, right? I guess the thing that they would do it fine with us. I just want to show effort on our part.
Andrew, I want to follow up on what Donna said. What is your experience about approaching DEP as we make this effort to meet the deadline for getting some sort of an extension or temporary grace period while they see us going through the effort to comply?
So my recommendation is that we reach out to DEP as soon as possible. And in my experience, working with DEP directly has been extremely beneficial. I would not recommend not reaching out to DEP. I don't think that's going to get the township anywhere. And I think you hit the point, you kind of hit the nail on the head saying we need at this point to demonstrate maximum effort. That is going to go a long way. One, if DEP decides that they want to audit the township, I mean, we could frankly get a email tomorrow from DEP that they want to audit the township. And even though we don't have an approved permit, they would expect you to still be complying with your prior permit, which I think the township has demonstrated, some compliance for. We could get audited by DEP any day, and we could get audited by EPA at any point, frankly. And I know for a fact EPA has been targeting Southern Chester County for future audits. And so my recommendation would be to move forward to demonstrate, that the township is taking this requirement seriously, and not saying that the township wasn't taking it seriously before, but that the township at this point is doing everything it can to comply with its permit and focusing on the PRP and TMDL projects at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even see where there's an option, right? I mean, I think one of the things that we've been operating under is we've been waiting for this DEP opinion, not really saying we weren't intentionally doing nothing. We were waiting for an opinion.
Yeah.
So, I guess I don't really have a question. I guess the path forward is we simply start executing on this plan, right? I mean,
we can't execute on. We have to develop it.
Develop the plan.
We have to create a
That's
plan.
what I'm just kind of.
And just a comment, Andrew, I know we say the word reach out to DEP. We can't reach out to DEP until we have a plan. Not another plan. A strategy is the right word.
Right.
So we need, I'm happy for you to work with the board to say, okay, what do we want to get out of an interaction with DEP? So what's the objective of that conversation? What are specific questions? Because I would imagine that they're going to want to know, okay, what do you want to talk to us about? In my experience, you don't just walk into a regulatory authority and say, hi, let's chat. They would say, okay, what are your questions? What is it that you want to accomplish here? And you have to provide that to them. I want to discuss A, B, C, and D, and we want to get to this point. So I don't know if there's something that you would draw up and say, look, this is where I think would be advantageous for us to talk to DEP about these 5 points or whatever that is, with the objective of being explain to DEP our situation and our desire to move this forward, as you said. And then we would have to put some meat in the bones. Okay, what do we think? What specific questions do we have, or what proposals do we have that we want to get their comments on so that we can move this forward?
Who talks to DEP? Does Guy talk to DEP on our behalf, or does Andrew talk to DEP?
Yeah, I would normally defer to the engineers on engineering concepts. If enforcement was ever involved, or counsel out of Norristown, DEP counsel out of Norristown were to raise his or her head, then I would get involved. But I would recommend, and I think Andrew will agree, that there be an immediate concerted effort by Arrow to reach out to DEP and figure out exactly what they expect from us and give us a little bit of guidance on how they think we can best proceed with our planned strategies. I don't know, Andrew, that would seem to me what I would do if it was on the legal side.
Yeah, I don't think you want to open questions. I think you want us to come back to them and say, this is our proposal. So based on your comments, we propose doing X, Y, and Z. Is this reasonable? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to saying, DEP, what do you want? It's
Right.
better to say, this is based on your comments, we believe X, Y, and Z. Do you agree? It's more of putting a proposal together in terms of how do we move this forward. And I would ask you to put your thoughts together and come back to the board we can do another meeting. It doesn't, we don't have to wait a month to do that. But we'll come back together and say, this is what I think would be helpful. And then I see you, Andrew, and Jeff going, I mean, I think you should have a Franklin Township person there to meet with them and have the conversation.
But and Andrew, I'll say thank you for explaining what you have already this evening. It's helped me understand. This is kind of like my first year at this. So I wasn't here when whatever was filed in 2018 or whenever it was. But it sounds like the first thing we need to do is get the board together with you and look at the questions that the DEP had, right, on the TMDL thing. That might be the first thing. So we understand what their questions are, right? Then we can strategize about what we can do to answer those questions, right? And then after that, I guess that's when we start striking conversation back up with them. I don't know any other way to go through it. So that's what we've been talking about.
I also want to understand in the application process, which we don't have an approved permit yet, are we in the application, are we going to need to provide them exactly what our intentions are? The redirecting storm, and I don't know all this, stuff, the things that you mentioned before. And by doing this will remove 10,000 tons or pounds or whatever it is. I mean, is that detail going to be needed in the application to get approved? And how do we get there when a lot of the stuff is on private? Some of the stuff is probably on private lands, and we don't even know what this is going to cost.
Yeah. So a lot of good questions. And I guess the one thing I do want to point out is that just to make it clear, when DEP have received a complaint about a basin that back in January on private property that somebody had thought it was the township's responsibility, and it turned out it really wasn't. But because DEP was on that email chain, they had sent us an email. And when I say us, it was Jeff was on it. It was me. And they said, and I actually have the email here. It's from Beth Mahoney, who's the head of MS4 in the Southeast office. And she wrote on January 17th, 23, while DEP doesn't need anything immediately, at some point, Ian Quinlan of my staff will be reaching out to you to discuss the township's pending MS4 permit. So they actually were the ones who first suggested that they want to meet with us, just to kind of chat about the pending permit status. So that's what kind of.
And why are we hearing about this today?
That was a month ago. Did you try to get to hold of us yet after that email?
And Andrew, what that was about 120 Liberty Lane, correct?
Correct. It was not about MS4 specifically. It was just an ancillary point that Beth made to us just in conversation.
What it was, Donna, the new homeowner went directly to DEP. They didn't come to us and ask the question. DEP was wondering, was that our storm basin? It isn't. I did some research, found out that one of the first homeowners dug it as a pond, as a neat thing to do.
I remember us talking about it, but I don't remember DEP saying we want to talk to you or we're going to reach out to you. That's the only part I don't remember.
Okay.
But I remember you saying that you were doing the research.
Andrew got back to DEP regarding that, and I got back to the homeowner.
Yeah, but regardless, I think as we're saying that we got to get to DEP, but before we get to DEP, we got to get together to make sure we're aligned on what issues to discuss with DEP to start.
So their questions and the 25 projects that were originally listed, I don't think anybody on this board knows what they are.
Well, we were part of that discussion. Yeah, I mean.
I don't know what they are.
Right. It was a different, it was years. Years and years ago that we
got to relook at that.
Right, exactly. Sure. So I think that's really our first step to do that. I don't know where you want to do with PennDOT, because that's kind of in parallel to this.
this is where I wanted to go next,
Right.
if it's okay. So we have been working, Andrew, with, and I shared these materials with you at some point, and with Amanda. We've been working with PennDOT on a contribution agreement within the Chesapeake watershed to buy into a larger out of municipality project to receive credits under our obligation to reduce pollution. And I had shared with the board some of your comments about the existence of and the need for a township approved PRP, and about the questions surrounding whether PennDOT had an approved PRP, and whether buying into a program where the sponsor of the program may not have all of their buttons and frills, whether that made some sense, was the cart before the horse. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind commenting on that. I tried to convey to the board the essence of what you and I discussed. I think I got it correct, but I'd like them to hear it straight from you, because you were so articulate when you spoke with me.
Sure. So, big picture is that a lot of municipalities in the state still have an outstanding requirement to implement their TMDL projects and their PRP projects. And there are a number of municipalities in Chester County, specifically in the Big Elk Creek watershed, that still have that requirement, including PennDOT. PennDOT has its own MS4 permit, and they have the same requirements as municipalities, where they have to do their own pollution reduction plan calculations in terms of their roadway jurisdiction and how much surface they have, and they have to come up with a strategy to reduce sediment runoff by 10% from their jurisdiction, or partnering with other municipalities to do that in their jurisdiction. So because PennDOT does not have a lot of space to actually implement structural stormwater projects, PennDOT has been reaching out to individual municipalities, as well as collections of municipalities as a group, saying, hey, we don't have land to do this within PennDOT right away or jurisdiction. We would be interested in doing a project on a township property, and not only would we be offering shared credit to that township where the or borough where that project would go, other municipalities have the opportunity to purchase credit as part of that regional project. And this is not just Chester County. These regional projects have been implemented across the state in York County, for example. All the municipalities, or most of the municipalities in York County, have a combined pollution reduction plan, where they have done stream restoration projects in different municipalities, where you can actually purchase credits from PennDOT and their and working with their engineer based upon how much restoration PennDOT needs to do. They will basically identify, stream restoration is the popular one, where, all right, let's find stream reach that can get us the maximum amount of credit with a favorable property owner. And let's allow other municipalities to pay us to purchase credit as part of that project. So in the Big Elk Creek watershed project, for example, I believe the stream restoration is being proposed by PennDOT and their engineer. But the actual stream restoration project is to be, I believe it's to be installed in terms of what their plan shows now. And I believe it's East Nottingham Township. So the idea is that they would implement this stream restoration in a township, and other municipalities would buy whatever amount of credit they need to meet their PRP requirements. And the benefit is, one project that multiple parties can claim credit for. And DEP has been in on these meetings. I actually attended a Big Elk Creek watershed for another municipality on their behalf last summer. And it was PennDOT's engineer, who is RES, all of the local municipalities that are wishing that wanted to partner in this. And PennDOT presented their plan. DEP was present and acknowledged that we are doing this collectively. And so at this point, PennDOT has requested that any municipalities that wish to partner at this point need to basically notify PennDOT and their representatives of that intention, and then start the process of executing an agreement between PennDOT and that municipality to purchase the credits. And basically, that agreement would also outline all the legalities that go into the project as a whole. And in summary, we had a number of concerns. This other municipality that I was working with, we had a number of concerns that between myself and the township solicitor, we outlined and provided to Daryl St. Clair of PennDOT, who's the same contact that Mr. Donatelli has been working with. And he responded to those comments. And just from a standpoint of how much credit would this project potentially get, this township that I also had worked with decided to move forward with it. Now, a couple things. The biggest thing is technically PennDOT's PRP is not approved at this point. So all the credit that PennDOT is claiming in their PRP, that has not been officially approved by PennDOT. That has not been approved by DEP. However, those stream restoration techniques have been utilized in other parts of the state, and those separate PRPs have been accepted by DEP. So there is some risk in terms of right now, PennDOT's asking partnering municipalities to sign an agreement and identify how much credit they want. But at this point, PennDOT's PRP is not approved, and DEP actually acknowledges that. And DEP actually is aware of this project, and based upon correspondence that I have from between LTL and DEP, this topic came up, and the suggestion from I believe it was Beth Mahoney at DEP was that if this Big Elk Creek watershed is something that Franklin Township wishes to move forward with, it is preferred that the township, as in Franklin Township's PRP, be approved first. However, that is not required. And what they are requesting is, if you wish to partner as part of this PennDOT project, and even if both PRPs are not approved at this point, they recommend working closely together to make sure that that our methodology that we would have to put into the township's PRP to match PennDOT's PRP is on the same page in terms of PennDOT saying they'll get this amount of credit. We need to reflect our methodology to adhere to that.
So why make the comment that we should get our ducks in a row before we do this, but it's not required to get our ducks in a row? Like, I don't understand that comment at all.
Work's not even in our township. It works
so yeah, and I guess my question is, it seems like this is just a mess.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a bunch of people not really paying attention, getting things done. Everybody seems to be kind of out of time. Yeah. Right. And then we've got a June 30th deadline. So I'm trying to get my head around what the next step is. It seems to me with the PennDOT situation, we want to get DEP approval before we say, hey, we're going to be part of this. And what's the holdup on DEP's end from approving the project? So if DEP knows that PennDOT is working on this, is there an issue with the project? Is there an HR issue in DEP? They don't have someone to look through the documents and approve it. What's the holdup there in that process?
So I'm not trying to make light of this, but I believe so we have been inquiring the other municipality that I work with, we've been inquiring with PennDOT about, hey, have you heard anything back about your PRP? And I think the last that we had touched base was early January. Yeah. And I know that someone from DEP made a comment about that it was hunting season or I don't know. So, but I know. In all seriousness, though,
down on us
so we do expect that soon, hopefully within the next month or two, PennDOT will have a response from DEP, because they do know that this is a big collective effort that all these other municipalities are waiting for. So we're hopeful that they get word in the next month or two. And even though PennDOT has requested, we heard back in December from PennDOT, hey, if you want in, we need to know within the next 2 or 4 weeks. Well, in all reality, we actually had an agreement that this other township signed about a month ago. And then as soon as we signed it and submitted it to PennDOT, they said, but wait a minute, actually, we need to give you a revised contract. So but having said that, I will say this, assuming that the credits go through and are approved, in terms of just meeting the PRP requirements, it is a great deal in terms of the cost per unit. But and on top of that too, there is a little bit of risk. But the one thing that we asked PennDOT was, from your understanding, if you say you're going to get, I'm just throwing out a number, 200,000 pounds of sediment reductions through this big stream restoration project. What if we buy our credits and you give us those credits thinking that you're going to get collectively 200K worth of sediment reduction? What if DEP says you're only getting 100K of sediment reduction? What happens to our credits and our money? So PennDOT has said, and they provided this in a response to our questions we proposed, they did say that in that case, they would make the engineer who's constructing it conduct more stream restoration, and they have purchased more stream reach just in case that happens. So based upon comments that PennDOT has provided, if there is a change in how much credits being allocated with the stream restoration project, the credits purchased from the township would not be lost. PennDOT would be on the hook to restore more stream restoration.
It's going to cost them the money, and they're going to just put the money out there. So we're not paying any more. But they have to do more work. It's going to cost more money. It's going to cost more. Somebody has to pay for it.
Andrew, how much credits can we get if we wanted? Well, you said 79,000. How much can we get, do you think? And second, how much do you think it would cost per credit? And third, is this other township that you're working with, or do they have a approved permit?
So one, again, we have the TMDL requirements, and the TMDL requirements for Franklin Township are specific to the Christiana River Basin. The pollution reduction plan requirements are for the Chesapeake Bay watershed. So those are two separate plan requirements in two separate watersheds. Because the Big Elk Creek drains into the Chesapeake Bay and it's not in the same drainage basin as the Christiana watershed, we cannot satisfy the TMDL requirements with this project, but we can satisfy the pollution reduction plan requirements with this project. And so currently and again, your PRP has not been approved in any way, but the anticipated level of restoration that the township needs to provide with just its pollution reduction plan is 6,800 credits, and the cost per pound or the cost per credit is $1.95 a pound. So doing some quick math, that comes out to about approximately somewhere between $13,000 and $14,000. So you could meet just your PRP requirement with about $13,000 worth of credit purchases, which I will say that is significantly cheaper than doing anything else. It's cheaper than doing stream restoration. It's cheaper than doing a bioswale. It's cheaper than doing a basin retrofit.
I mean, we were in favor of this PennDOT plan. The issue now is they don't have a approved plan, right? So that's kind of where we're now having the question is, okay, well, we've got this, we're going to buy our credits that'll take care of this portion of it, but they don't have an approved plan. So do we sit and wait until the DEP comes back? And I think maybe you said maybe in a month they might have their plan approved, or do we move ahead and just get involved.
We need to interact with DEP anyway, so it could be one of the questions. you know,
Right,
how-
yeah,
how-
that might be the comment.
Yeah, I mean, when we go to DEP and, like I said, the board, be happy to work with you on this, Andrew. It would be, we have two areas that we have to address. The PRP is actually supposed to be the smaller one. And it could be that our plan is to use the PennDOT approach to satisfy that. And does the PennDOT, where's the status, or does PennDOT agree that this is a reasonable approach, or whatever could be part of the questions that we ask when we meet with PennDOT. So I'm not PennDOT, when we meet with DEP. So I think because this thing is so big, if we could it might be worth taking a little bit of risk with PennDOT at 15K just to get that part settled, but we'll ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's not like if we enter into this cooperative and they don't get their credits, it's not like we're dealing with a fly-by-night organization.
Right.
We'll get our money back from PennDOT. It's how I would anticipate it, but
Do we want to risk that somebody comes along and takes our, like, there's only a certain number of credits and another township buys the credit and we don't have any available?
I was gonna ask that.
Oh, sorry.
Andrew, how does that, say the Big Elk Creek project right now, let's say it's worth 100 credits and there's 3 townships right now, we'd be the 4th one. Does PennDOT get 100 credits and then we also get, like, the other 4 townships get 100 to split amongst each other, or how does it work? Is it double count, or is it?
Yeah, so in a way, the amount of credits that so PennDOT will essentially build the entire stream reach to overachieve their minimum requirement. And the idea is to pay for the additional work, which they can also count as credit. Townships can also buy in and claim that credit, but and it's not exactly clear in terms of, like, we're not purchasing a certain section of stream reach as part of this project. They're basically getting as much money as they can and doing as much stream restoration as they can, based upon that amount of money or anticipated amount of money. And it's not clear in terms of if there's like a definitive deadline to say, all right, once we have 100,000 credits that other townships want to purchase, then we're done offering it. We were working in this other township under the guise of, hey, we need a commitment, just a verbal commitment by December. And here we are, February 15th, and we just actually signed the agreement last night, actually. But it does seem like, and this is just a kind of assumption, it does seem like that PennDOT, their timeline for, hey, you have to actually give us the money and sign the agreement by, it seems like that deadline has been shifting month to month to month in terms of, well, we actually don't really need it by this deadline, but we do need it by. So my recommendation would be, at minimum, to at least ensure that PennDOT knows that the township is interested in doing this, but it's going to take, obviously, really, that's going to be something that, the board's going to have to obviously see the final agreement and approve it. That's not going to be done tomorrow. It's going to, at minimum, have to take another month, just based upon, just getting it advertised and potentially bring it up at another board meeting. So I don't know if there's I am not aware of a hard deadline to say this is the date, either get in or get out. I don't know if there's that cutoff date, but in terms of the credit sharing, the allocated credits to each municipality, not PennDOT, is going to be based upon how many credits you purchase. But in reality, PennDOT can take credit for that entire stream reach. But the thing is, too, you can actually lower your pollution reduction plan requirement if you exclude state roadways, federal roadways, which would include PennDOT roadways. But we want to include roadways for PennDOT in our calculation to do this partnership. So, I guess to answer your question, the credits that we allocated to the township is going to be strictly based upon how many we purchase, but PennDOT can take credit for, frankly, a majority, if not all, of the stream restoration effort in this, as part of this project.
Yeah, the way they explained it to us is that there is double counting, at least that's what he said. He said, I don't understand why they did it, but DEP agreed that we get credit for it and then we're able to sell the credit. Now, this gets back to this too good to be true thing, where it almost sounded too good to be true. And they also talked about the fact that this work was being done in another township, not here in Franklin Township, that we have no maintenance responsibilities, which was also an important thing for us. And that seems to still be true, right, God, that they continue to say that. So I think it might be worth the risk to get this thing off our table.
I wanted to ask a question, and I reluctantly interrupt the board, but just thinking out loud, and I don't know about this township that signed this agreement last night, but I assume that township has an approved PRP?
Well, so they do have an approved PRP, but we do have to redo the PRP to include the stream restoration project for PennDOT. So to answer your question, that this township does not have an approved PRP with the stream restoration project to date. We are currently drafting that now and we'll resubmit it in the coming weeks.
Yet, just as far as sequence is concerned, they expressed to PennDOT their interest in buying into the project with a contribution agreement, advertised the contribution agreement and approved it, right?
Correct.
So the question then becomes, what is the tolerance? And I don't know what they're paying, but what is the tolerance for the risk involved in that, for the benefit of showing the Commonwealth, DEP, and everyone else, the EPA, we're doing everything we can to comply with. It would seem to me for this township, and again, maybe going too far, that risk would be roughly 13.7, something like that. All right, thank you, Andrew.
I think we know that the risk from the PennDOT thing is not that it's going to be all or nothing. It's just that maybe they don't get the credit that they think it is. So I don't think at this point, if I would be shocked if DEP did this, they turn around and say, no, we're not doing this. That you would expect at this point, there has to be some kind of a sense that, yes, it's just a matter of, okay, how many credits do you get for it? So I think our risk is even less than 13.7 because it may not be, we get the whatever number we want, maybe we get 2/3 of it. But even that's, we have no plan for PRP. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's not so much that, it's about we have to have the conversation. So we have to come together as a board and figure out maybe what our questions are. Like, so you're right. Sketch out a plan.
Right.
And then have that as something you take back in that conversation with DEP and say, we're considering X, Y, and Z. Does this feel like, is this going in the right direction? And I think it's the idea is to get back to them.
So I guess, why don't you ask your question?
I was just going to ask a quick question. Is our PRP going to mimic the PennDOT's?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we will include their methodology for stream restoration.
Okay.
But we will have to show our baseline requirement, which is going to be based upon the land in Franklin Township. So we will have our own unique restoration requirement. But in terms of our proposed projects, it'll mimic PennDOT. So I actually have a copy as of December of their submitted plan. So you essentially can lift for lack of a better term, lift their work for the township's PRP plan, because we want to make sure that we're on the same page in terms of methodology and our calculations.
Do you already have that? All right, if you're going to lift the information from PennDOT, do you then have from LTL or from previous work that's been done, the other information you needed? So to making that the application may not take as long as feared.
Well, so again, we haven't even submitted the PRP in the first place.
Right.
So,
We had a waiver, right? We had a waiver.
We were exploring a waiver.
You asked for a waiver and DEP denied it. So that 6,800 pounds of sediment reduction requirement hasn't even been solidified at this point. But at minimum, what I would say is we can, I don't think there's any other way to go about this other than having Aero redo the PRP and the TMDL plan.
That's what I think we're coming to here. So the next step is that Arrow rewrites the plan. And then we resubmit it to the DEP
No, we got to go back to DEP.
first before we rewrite the plan?
Right, so rewriting the plan is a big job, right? So you need to get some concepts together. So I would look at it as Arrow needs to think about the concepts and what they think should be included in the plan. And also, and how much credit or whatever those calculations are, right? So whatever needs to be included in the plan and how that's going to get us whatever credit. So he needs to do some sketching out. It's not going to be beautiful. It's not going to be a 600-page plan. It's just going to be, this is the concept.
Are you talking about the TMDL or the PRP?
The PRP is going to be PennDOT. That's about the best we can do. It's the TMDL.
Yeah.
We have to have a strategy for, and then we take that to PennDOT to say, look, we got your comments. This is how we plan to address it. Are we going in the right direction? That's what I would suggest we would do. And then depending on what their feedback is, then you create the big plan, the pretty document, and that's what we submit.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I think in my opinion, there is a lot of legwork that we can do now. Like, in terms of one thing that we did was we looked at your existing MS4 mapping. And I think there's some things we'd like to field verify. And not to kind of keep talking about these other ancillary issues, but one thing that could potentially, something that we have to think about is if you want to claim credit, like say that there's 60 existing stormwater basins in Franklin Township, you can use those basins to lower your PRP and TMDL restoration requirements. However, you need to ensure that they are functioning and in the state of and existing in the state as of when that plan was approved, whether it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago, or a year or two ago. So one thing that I did propose to Jeff and just mention it is, hey, I do think that one thing we can't get away from is we need to spend, a day or two visiting each stormwater basin in the township. And I know the township doesn't have a lot of staff, obviously, but we need to make sure that if we're putting these BMPs into our plans and saying we're going to say that we have 60 BMPs and we're going to reduce, 40 pounds of sediment reduction that we need to implement. We need to make sure that they're functioning, because and just kind of like a use case, we were in the same situation with another municipality in the county where they had submitted a PRP. It wasn't approved. It was kind of in limbo for a couple years. And we actually did inspections of all their stormwater basins when we started working for them. And, a lot of them, required routine maintenance, but there was one stormwater basin that was completely washed out, where it was almost covered, where the inlets and outlets in the basin itself and the riser were completely covered in mud, where the structure was failing completely. So I think there's going to be some ground mapping that needs to be conducted to make sure our mapping's accurate. And once our mapping's accurate, then we can kind of spit out, all right, this is what we think our actual restoration requirement number is for our PRP and for our TMDL plan. And then from there, once we know what our requirement is, I really think it's going to be me and, Jeff and whomever else from the township sitting down saying, all right, here's our actual requirement. Can we, for the TMDL, are any of these basins, can we still utilize them to meet our requirement? But if they're on private property, do we want to reach out to this property owner first to even know if they're willing to let us do a project at this basin? Because we certainly don't want to submit a PRP plan where we're putting in 25 basins retrofit and none of the owners are willing to work with us.
Yeah. So I guess there's one more question. I don't want to drag this conversation out any longer than we have to, but what happens if we don't have enough projects in the township to meet our sediment plan because we have a bunch of residents who don't want us messing around with their property? What do you do then? Do you just pay the DEP $65,000 to
Well-
pay for the sediment or?
Yeah, so every municipality has to demonstrate that they've exhausted every possible option to meet your requirement. And I know that sounds like a nothing response almost, but I guess in summary, there is no way out of this. Like, we have to demonstrate that we've exhausted every possible effort to find a location.
Oh, I understand. I understand that. I guess it was a hypothetical situation where we have all these basins on private property and they don't want us to.
I hope there's plenty because July 1st, the new clock starts ticking.
I know.
Yeah.
We got to do another 10%.
All right. So, I mean, I think there's, I think we have to understand where we need to go. Are there any other questions for Andrew? Any other?
Clear as mud.
Yeah, I mean,
Welcome aboard.
yeah. So I think, I guess we're gonna, do we want to set up a meeting sometime between now and the next board meeting to discuss the plan? I think, Andrew, you need to kind of come to us with some kind of line items, like here's the path through this. And then we can discuss, okay, start executing this. So do we want to have a workshop meeting, or we'll have it at the next workshop meeting?
That's what I was gonna ask. Andrew, are you okay with March 6th? Do you think you'll have enough done to come to that meeting where we can all try and make a decision?
Sure. Yeah. So, I can be available for that March 6th meeting. And so what I can do at this point is take all the information I have and really look at what I can do as well is I can also look through all the BMPs that we have in the TMDL plan and identify, all right, this BMP is at this address, it's on private property. That way we at least have some more information about each project. And if, because right now I just have like a number, like, BMP 2, 3, 4. What I can do is really provide detail on where those are at and who the property owners are based upon Chester County's parcel data. So I can bring that with me. And, we can even do preliminary work between now and then. I mean, if the board's okay with it, we can actually get boots on the ground now to start some of that mapping effort that I don't think we can get away from. And I'd like to maybe do some of that if possible before that March 6th meeting, in terms of looking at stormwater basins and potentially starting to accumulate an idea of what we think our actual requirements going to be. I mean, we can do as much as we need to in preparation of that. I mean, we can even start getting into addressing some of the comments. Or we can at least identify the comments and present them, but I don't think we can. I think a lot of this work has to be done no matter what, in terms of solidifying the mapping and updating the calculations, at least initially. I think that really has to be done no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Sounds good.
So one more comment. So in parallel, I mean, I don't know where we're at with PennDOT, but do they still know that we're still interested? Because I don't want to lose that opportunity.
I have exchanged emails with Daryl St. Clair as recently as 2 weeks ago. I didn't want to step on Andrew's toes and have him fielding questions from both sides, but Mr. St. Clair has my final draft of the contribution agreement, so he knows, because I've given it to him with the request. Other than the blanks for the credits and the cost, my clients are okay with this language. So PennDOT knows from me in writing. I will deal with Mr. St. Clair through Andrew, and he and I can decide who might be the best immediate follow-up. Is that all right, Don?
Sounds good. Yeah.
I just remember, Andrew, your words were, you think it's a great deal. I mean,
Yeah.
And it may cost, maybe it's going to cost a few dollars more per credit, but at the end of the day, it's probably worth the risk. And I think we've got that sense from you. So.
Yeah.
And Andrew, when you have time regarding the public education part, if you could email me items that I can post to the website, I like to create a page for that. Just over time, and that's something I can do on the evenings or weekends.
Right. Yep, I can certainly do that, Jeff.
Well, we got a lot of work to do.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Welcome aboard. A lot of work to do.
Yep, thank you for having me.
All right, thanks.
See you, Andrew.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Guy. Appreciate it.
Can I get the sense of the board with a question that I have outside of MS4?
Yeah,
I wanted to see if the board was okay with me approaching the property owners adjacent to Creek Road, just to get their sense how they would feel of turning that portion of that into a trail.
I vote yes. for
yes,
that,
yeah.
Okay, because I'd like to go talk with them and call them or meet with them in person.
Yeah, I mean, I think and we need to understand that there's some good reasons why we're doing that.
Yeah.
The cost of maintaining that road is beyond what it's worth in its use. So, all right, thank you. All right, so let's get on to our business. This is a switch. Usually it's the business that's the long part of the meeting. And start talking about our bid packages. So we opened our bid packages this morning, and we have a number of items: the Crossing Park and office mowing bid package, the road paving bid package, and the old schoolhouse road profiling and shoulder grading bid package to discuss. So I'd like to start off with the Crossing Park and office mowing bid package. The first is a bid denial. So I'm going to make a motion that the board deny the lowest bid received from Harwood Property Services. It was in the amount of $24,720 for the 2023 Crossing Park and office mowing bid package. This was recommended by Jeff Eastburn, our Franklin Township Operations Manager, due to previous experience with the company within Franklin Township. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Any discussion on this? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. And the motion passes 5-0. Okay, so I make a motion this is a bid approval. I make a motion that the board approve the bid received by KMC Landscaping in the amount of $36,100 for the 2023 Crossing Park and office mowing bid package as recommended by Jeff Eastburn, Franklin Township Operations Manager. Can I have a second? All right, thank you, Dawn. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries 5-0. I make a motion, so this is for the interim road project bid package. I make a motion that the board approve the bid received from J. Dominic DeRazio Incorporated with the hourly rates as specified in his submitted bid for the 2023 interim road project bid package as recommended by Ron Reagan, Township Engineer, and Jeff Eastburn, Franklin Township Operations Manager. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Donna. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries 5-0. All right, this is for the 2023 road paving bid package. I make a motion that the board approve the bid received from Long's Asphalt in the amount of $203,960 for the 2023 road paving bid package, as recommended by Ron Reagan, Township Engineer, and Jeff Eastburn, Franklin Township Operations Manager. Can I have a second? Second. All right, thank you, Stefan. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. All right, this is for the 2023 Old Schoolhouse Road Drainage Bid Package. The proposed motion, I make a motion that the board approve the bid received from J. Dominic DeRazio Incorporated in the amount of $6,800 for the 2023 Old Schoolhouse Road Drainage Bid Package as recommended by Ron Reagan, Township Engineer, and Jeff Eastburn, Franklin Township Operations Manager. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries 5-0. And I have a motion here for 2023 Old Schoolhouse Road Profiling and Shoulder Grading Bid Package. I make a motion that the board deny the bid received from Eagle Contracting and Landscaping in the amount of $33,650 for the 2023 Old Schoolhouse Road Profiling and Shoulder Grade Bid Package, as recommended by Ron Reagan, the Township Engineer, and Jeff Eastburn, Franklin Township's Operation Manager, because this firm submitted an incomplete bid package. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, thank you, Donna. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. And finally, I make a motion that the board approve the bid received from Long's Asphalt in the amount of $52,295 for the 2023 Old Schoolhouse Road Profiling and Shoulder Grading Bid Package, as recommended by Ron Reagan, Township Engineer, and Jeff Eastburn, Franklin Township Operations Manager. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Jim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
No.
All right, motion carries 5-0.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody.
So great work, Jeff and Ron.
Thank you.
Guy, to make this happen. I know this is it's a lot of work behind the
A
scenes.
lot of discussion. Okay.
All right, winding down here. So appointment of Township Secretary. I make a motion to appoint Stacy Hollis as the Township Secretary.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Dave. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Welcome officially.
All right, welcome aboard, Stacy. Well, we can have her take an oath.
No harm in that.
Now you're here, you can't leave. That's good.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So now we have moved to public comment. This public comment can include comments on anything attendees might want to share. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. I open the floor to public comment.
Nothing, John?
Nothing?
Nothing, John?
Nothing online?
All right. Not hearing any, I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 9:12 p.m. All right. Thank you, Stefan. Any discussion on adjourning the meeting? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Motion carries 5-0.